being in hot form here. The game starts with Wei Yi having the white pieces for his first win, while Sindarov already has 4 wins in this tournament. Pawn to e4 played, and Javokhir calms himself down and plays pawn to e5. We have e4, e5. I think Javokhir. Whoa, knight c3. Wow. Wei Yi plays the other knight. Well, clearly knight f3 is the main move at top level, but knight c3. Is he planning to play the Vienna? Knight c6 played by Sindarov, and now you can transpose back into main lines with knight f3. But bishop to c4 played, and very interesting move. Javokhir should bring out his knight, I think. Yes, he brings his knight. He waits for a bit, and now brings out his knight to f6. We have pawn to d3 played, and knight a5. Going after the bishop on c4 here is Javokhir Sindarov. Pawn to a3. Now this is not the most common move. The most common move is knight to e2. But a3 has been played in around 80 games. So knight takes c4. You get the very important bishop. But on the other hand, you get your pawn to c4, and now these two pawns control the d5 square. So you have kind of a bind in the center. Bishop comes out to c5, attacking this pawn on f2. We have knight coming to f3, attacking the pawn in the center. And Javokhir now plays his pawn to d6. And queen to d3 played by Wei Yi. You can see him blitzing out his moves. He's only used 2.5 minutes here, so clearly prepped up. Javokhir, meanwhile, taking more time on the clock. Bishop e6 played. And the bishop puts pressure on the c4 pawn. But bishop g5 instantly played, pinning the knight on f6. Now, do you want to castle here? That would be too dangerous in my opinion. So a5 played by Sindarov. He's stopping the b4 advance to get space on the queen side. And now knight to d5 played. So one plan could be to simply take on d5 so that you don't get double pawns. The other one could be to simply kick off the knight. He does it. Pawn to c6. And thereby accepting double pawns on f6. So knight takes f6 taken by Wei Yi. Check. G takes f6 taken, attacking the bishop. The bishop now needs to move. Bishop h4. Yes, he plays his bishop here, keeping this pressure. Very interesting middle game. Black has the bishop pair, but where does the king go? Javokhir plays rook to g8. He's attacking the g2 pawn. And I think you don't want to bring your bishop back to g3, especially when your bishop is putting pressure here. So short castle makes sense. And now, how does Sindarov continue here? He plays pawn to a4, clamping down the structure on the queen side. And now white can push pawn to b4, and Wei Yi does it. But actually, he can lose a pawn, right? A, B, C, B, and now rook a3 is hanging. He takes it, A, B, C, B, and he goes bishop g4. He doesn't really take the pawn because he thought like take, rook a1, white gets the open file. So bishop g4, now b4 played. But actually speaking, what Sindarov is hoping for here is after bishop f3, now g2 is hanging, so you clearly need to take this bishop back. Queen takes f3. Javokhir is wanting to get his bishop on d4, but f6 is terribly weak. I mean, how can you even go for this is the question to me. Oh, he takes bishop f6, and Sindarov has basically understood that he can play queen d7, rook g6, queen e6, move the king, bring the rook. My goodness, this is just incredible assessment by Javokhir. Queen comes up to d7, lovely move. And now the rook is attacked, so rook needs to move. Rook a d1, I believe, is the move. He plays it. I think somewhere Wei Yi should sacrifice an exchange here. This bishop on d4 is a monster. Queen e6. He attacks the pawn on c4. I don't know. It's not so easy to defend this pawn. h3 played. I guess rook g6. Rook g6. Interesting move to attack the bishop. But Javokhir is tempted by picking up the pawn on c4. He takes it. Queen takes c4. Do you take here? On d4. Every move is an option to take or not to take. Rook d3 played. And the idea is to double down on the d file. Queen comes back to e6. Something like take, bishop takes should be good compensation for white. Something that Wei Yi would love to do. But rook fd1 played. And now rook g6. Attacking the bishop here on f6. Bishop goes back to h4. And now Javokhir can just put his pawn on c5. But he goes king f8. Not worrying about the exchange sack. If Wei Yi didn't sack an exchange until now, why would he do it now is the question. If you see Javokhir's pieces, they are all super active, right? The rook is very active here. The other rook is very active here. The bishop is well placed here. The queen is looking in these directions. Meanwhile, queen takes h3 would be a huge blunder because rook is here. Anyway, there was bishop e7 as well. But h7 is attacked. So king g8 played to defend this pawn. And now Wei Yi under big pressure here because time-wise he has 12 minutes while Sindarov has 55 minutes. He goes king h1. There was one certain move where Wei Yi actually thought for 47 minutes. c5, pushing the pawn forward. Because just this bishop becomes a solid granite. f4 played. And now e takes f4. He chops off the pawn. And Javokhir now is a pawn up. From being a pawn down, he's a pawn up. He got one of his pawns on c4. Now took another on f4. And Wei Yi, well, he can't handle the pressure actually. He's being pressurized on the board, off the board, on the clock. Queen f3, attacking the pawn on f4. And now bishop e5 is a strong move. Everything is solid. Everything is working well. But Sindarov is going for his rook. Makes an error. Wei Yi is back if he finds bishop f2. An excellent move because bishop f2, if you go back, I can take and the pawn on c5 is hanging. So there's no way you can solidify it, and if bishop f2, queen f2 would happen. He finds it. Bishop f2, good move. Good move by Wei Yi with 6 minutes on the clock. Can he save this? Sindarov looks at his score sheet, takes the bishop, queen takes f2. And now the e4 pawn is hanging, but the d6 is weak. Okay, don't take on d6, Wei Yi. Take on c5, rook f3. And white is holding this. f4 is weak. But Wei Yi going for the rook. No, don't blunder. Blunders. Rook d6. That's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. And Sindarov just comes in. Look at his time. He has 49 minutes on the clock. And Wei Yi seems to be a little bit worried there. And Javokhir Sindarov is winning now. Why? Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. And there's an insane move that he has. So firstly, he chops rook d6. Rook d6. And now a very, very cool move. Queen e3. It's a brilliant move. Finds it. And the main point of it is that queen g3 and rook e1 is coming. And if you take, of course, fe3 and this pawn is a monster. Wei Yi can't do a thing now. Queen h4 he wants to play. He brings his queen there and he puts it back because he sees that queen g3 is winning. Rook e1 is coming. What a moment this is. He goes queen f3. And now a safe way to play is queen takes queen and push the pawn. But Javokhir is one of those guys who never really plays for safety. And one of the things that we've noticed about him is that when he's winning, he just blitzes out his moves. He doesn't have second thoughts. No nose. Queen g4 check. King f8. Best move. Not king h8. King h8 you could get into some perpetuals. Finds again king f8. Wow. I love it. Love the accuracy with which Javokhir is playing. He's moving towards his 5th win in this tournament. +5 is like an insane score. Guys, +5 is 9.5 out of 14. If this goes as per plan. 9.5 out of 14 is like an insane score which Nepo did in 2022 candidates where he dominated the field. c3. The pawn is queening. Is there anything, any way that white can create something here? Queen g5 played by Wei Yi, just hoping for check, 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 draw, but f3 is just game over because f3 controls the queen. There's nothing more to be done. He plays f3. Brilliant. And takes on e3. Rook takes e3. Take it. And now c2 coming in, and if you take here, just put the rook behind, bring the king in. There's just nothing to be done. The position is lost. Totally and utterly lost. Wei Yi looking at the board. He has been fair and squarely outplayed. He resigns there. Javokhir Sindarov pounces on that handshake, pounces on that point. He moves to 5.5 out of 6. What a performance by the Uzbek youngster. Let's hear, by the way, both of them analyze a bit if we can, here through the mic near the board.